help to start more businesses here in the 6th district. The second thing is this. We have guaranteed federal student loans. Why can't we have the same program for people who want to start a business, who want to be an entrepreneur? We have to fill out a FAFSA. You got to fill out all this information in order to get a loan to go to school. Well, why can't we have the same thing if you want to start a business so that you can create jobs? I would be all in favor of that, because when you are a business owner or when you are producing a job, you are more a part of the community, and that's important. So reducing the corporate tax rate, expanding opportunities for individuals to be able to start a business, to have capital, those two things alone. And then the third thing is this. We have to shut down our southern border and stop the flow of illegal aliens coming into our country. They are utilizing resources that should be for American citizens. Bottom line. And they are one of the factors that's causing your gas, your food, and all the prices to go up, because it's simple supply and demand. When you have more demand, millions of people coming in, and you have the same amount of supply, what happens? Prices go up. That's simple economics. So we have to get them out. Plain and simple. If you're not a citizen and you didn't come over correctly, you have to go back and do it the correct way. So now when that happens, our elderly, those who are on disability, those who are veterans can get the benefits and the help that they're supposed to be getting, and not their help being given to other people who are not citizens of the United States. Those three things alone will encourage economic growth and development and jobs, which I think is good.
Well, I can disagree with one of the candidates and agree with one of the others. First off, I don't think people can be illegal, can't have human beings being illegal. So I'm not going to agree on that. And of course, it sounds like that oil party has got this vernacular down from the campaign industrial complex, who just builds up fear and builds up hate. That's real good. But I will agree with the gentleman on the end here, Mr. Simpson, about the fair tax. Now, it is a little complicated to say this consumption tax can replace the income tax. I agree with that. It can be done. And you know what it'll do is bring jobs back from overseas. We will have people investing in America again. If they can go home with their full paycheck, that's an economic boost. That will bring jobs, increase wages, and opportunities. That's what you asked in the question. And that would be a good answer. So I'm glad you brought that up, brother. You know, there's a couple other elements to it, and the percentage is obviously going to be fought over. But if you make it a little bit higher, and you only tax new items, not used, new items only, that means that even the drug dealers would have to pay a tax then, right? Because they made their money without paying a tax, but when they want to buy their Mercedes, then they have to pay a tax. So you also put a prebate in there, so that you basically have a basic income guarantee for folks to pay the minimum tax if they're on a lower scale of the income. But it's really, thank you, man. We need to eliminate income tax. That is such a disincentive for this country growing. And I'm gonna leave you with this quote from this Honorable Sister Shirley Chisholm, who says, "America shouldn't be measured by its achievement, it should be measured by its potential."
May I add something? I want to say that if a person escapes from prison, they are fugitive. Their status is a fugitive, a person who escapes from prison. So a person who enters our nation and do not adhere to our law, They may not be legal, but they're in our country legally. Number two, I do want to say something, Mr. Buckner. Lowering the corporate tax rate should come with some strings attached. In South Carolina right now, the job market is pretty good. We have a lot of these factories that are hiring people, and yet South Carolina's labor engagement rate is very low because a lot of people say they're not being paid enough to live off of. But the corporations are being paid pretty well. They're getting billions and billions and billions of dollars in tax cuts. So I can't necessarily agree to lowering the corporate tax rate because that's the problem we have in this country. We are always helping the corporation. When the corporations crashed the economy in 2000, they got trillions of dollars. When the corporation crashed the economy during the Great Recession, they got trillions of dollars. Then they show back up at the government saying, give me more money. When Americans have a hard time, such as some saying that, hey, I can't afford my student loans, we tell Americans, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and deal with it. So I'm a little sick of corporations always getting the help. Let's actually give that help to Americans. And we talked about infrastructure. I'm surprised no one mentioned land. I heard people mention high rail. I support light rail. But what's going to happen to people's land when that light rail is built? Are we going to take more Black Americans' land to build that light rail and lose their land? So I want us to be more considerate of Americans. I think corporations have been treated pretty darn good in this nation. I want us to treat Americans just 50% as good as we treated corporations.
With all due respect, Mr. Odo, number one, the Grand Old Party have always been the party of free markets. Let the market decide what prices or what products rise and fall. So, as it relates to energy, we need to have a comprehensive energy policy that includes oil and gas, because right now we use oil and gas. We're in under the last bill of the Congress that Mr. Clyburn supported that was supposed to put out all these electric vehicle charging stations. We hadn't gotten one charging station, but yet we are subsidizing electric vehicles when people don't even want electric vehicles. And that caused gas prices to go up, which meant now people are paying higher for groceries, people are paying higher for everything because we are a transportation economy. Everything in here, somebody brought it in here on a truck, and that costs money. And so when gas goes up, everything goes up. And then as for to respond to Mr. Dixon, corporations and businesses take on the risk to invest, to start their business, and to be able to create jobs for us to be able to work. So when you take on that additional risk, then you should be rewarded for that risk, not a higher tax rate, but a lower tax rate, because what happens is when businesses are only going to transfer that tax rate over to us in higher prices for things. So if you raise the corporate tax rate and make it even higher, prices are going to go even higher. And when you have corporations and businesses that are providing health insurance for their employees and providing 401k matches and things like that, and you want to take more from them, they're not going to be able to provide the health insurance, so now you're going to have more people in the country without health insurance. So all I'm saying is there should be a balanced policy whereby we don't raise the taxes so high to disincentivize companies from expanding, providing health care for their employees, starting a business, and keeping our jobs here at home. That's what it's all about.
I think the American employees are the ones who are taking the risk going to work for these corporations. And all this talk about illegal immigration, the corporations are the ones hiring the people in the country legally. That's why they're coming over here. They would not be coming over here if they cannot find jobs. So giving these corporations a tax cut and then saying we want to stop the invasion at the southern border, those things, two things cannot coexist because the corporations are often the ones hiring the people here illegally and they're not being held accountable. accountable. I'm all for mass deportation, but I'm also for holding accountable the bosses and the CEOs who are knowingly hiring people who are not Americans because they don't want to pay Americans a fair wage. They should not be able to say, well, you Americans want to get paid fairly? I'm just going to bring a new group over here to replace y'all. So I think corporations need more accountability because the risk has historically been taken by Americans. And as far as things going up, have you bought a cheeseburger from McDonald's lately? Things are already going up. And now we have corporations saying they're going to lower the prices because they knew they were already charging higher prices than market value. So I do agree there needs to be a balance, and we have not had that. But if I get in DC, I promise you we will.
I got an addendum for you on the high-speed rail. We will not be taking any land. We can use existing highway right-of-ways, and build the maglev along those, and connect the 10 most populous cities. We can get city to city faster on a train than we can by plane.
Let's talk about this tax. I'm going to say something that's going to sound weird. I would get rid of corporate taxes as well. You get rid of income taxes, you get rid of corporate taxes, prices go down, wages can go up, because now you're not taking out all that tax. You want to see true corporate greed? If you take away income taxes, the way that the billionaire corporations, the billionaires running the corporations get away with this, is they know that their personal income tax rate is 35%. They know that their capital gains tax rate is 20%. I would keep capital gains tax rate at 20%. The reason I would do that at first, before I got rid of, or tried to get rid of that, is you want to see true corporate greed. If you take away income tax, but keep capital gains tax, you're going to see CEO salaries not in stock options. You're going to see it in dollar bills, because they're not going to get taxed on those dollar bills. So you will see immediately what companies are going to shift their plans from stock options to money, and how much money are they going to get paid. Keep all your money, build what you want. The prices are going to go down magically.
I would like to ensure that the redistricting process in South Carolina's Congressional District 6 is fair and representative of all communities, avoiding both racial and partisan gerrymandering, so that everybody has an equal voice in the process.
I've only lived here for 2 years. I came after this redistricting. I have no idea what it's even about and what happened. So I would have to look into it more to actually give you an answer.
I think the first thing we need to look at is, the process in the state legislature, the controlling party is the one that draws the district lines and is responsible for that. And the governor, of course, signs off on that. In the last redistricting, my opponent, Mr. Clyburn, he had a substantial amount of input in how the lines were drawn to protect his district so that it would be a majority district that he could get elected. And I think that's wrong. I think that when you look at drawing districts, it should be fair for everybody. And there shouldn't be, they draw the line so that it will help to keep that person in office. I think that's wrong. I think you should draw the line so that the citizens have a voice as to who they want to be elected, not Democrat or Republican, but put the line so that the voices of the people can be heard, and so that it's not a monopoly on one party versus the other. And to ensure that is to just make sure that you have leaders in office who are fair-minded, who are going to follow the rules, and who are going to do the right thing, and not look out for their friends or their partners or their own personal interests on the lines. That's a character issue as it relates to leadership. You just want to have good leaders who are going to do the right thing. That's the only way to fix it.
There was a bill introduced in Congress and part of it was to eliminate gerrymandering. Now, we succeeded in eliminating it in Virginia. So there are steps that has to be done, but at the state level. So we're running for Congress, but to work on that here in the state of South Carolina, I'm already working on things like instant runoff voting. That's definitely in our radar. We're trying to get it by 2031 when they do the redistricting. Again, let's get it where it's fair. All you need, there's three pieces of it. One, you need the citizens to have the opportunity to put a referendum on the ballot. That needs to be fixed here in South Carolina. So then if you pass the bill a couple of times in a row, the exact same bill that says we want the citizens to have a say on whether they want nonpartisan redistricting. Put that on the ballot, then let the voters vote on it, and once it's voted on, then you have a backup. In case you put together a commission that can't get it done, which did happen in Virginia, then you have the backup of where the retired judges stepped in and they got it done. So it can be done, and it has to be done. And that's just one of the 10 pieces of my national election reform platform. Many other pieces of that, which include term limits. So, sorry, Mr. Clyburn, but it's time to go.
Well, I agree. We need to get Clyburn out of it, first of all, because as Mr. Buckner brought up, there is a lot of evidence showing, and this is not this is like an open secret here in South Carolina, that he has a lot of influence in the redistricting process. And as much as people like to say the Republicans want to take black people's right to vote, no, it's a lot of black people too who aren't interested in black people having a fair and equitable opportunity to vote. I think that we need to also encourage people to run for office. I don't know if I'll be comfortable saying the federal government needs to take control, because that would be very bureaucratic. I do think it needs to stay at the state level. I think what we need to do, instead of people complaining about how those in power are disenfranchising them, let's encourage and help people run for office so they can be the people in power and they can enfranchise people. And let's tell people, because everyone's not going to run for office, everyone can't run for office, but let the people know that if you are not the person running for office, then you should be the person holding the people in office accountable.
What specific policies or legislative changes do you believe are most urgently needed for the diverse communities within District 6, and how do you plan to address them if elected? Mr. Butler.
That's a great question. I look at the main color is green. And when I say that, I mean that economics and having a good paid job and being able to do the things that you need to do results in less racism and less issues of division when you can have your own business or have a good paid job, do what you need to do, and take care of yourself and your family, then you don't have time to be, there's less racism and less division in our country when everybody is economically doing well and able to take care of themselves and their family, and not just surviving, but thriving and doing well. And the way to do that is get the government, less government. Because when you have less government, you have more freedom. When we have more freedom, you have more wealth. The exact opposite is true. When you have more freedom, more government, then you have less freedom. And when you have less freedom, you have less wealth. And so my policy would be to make sure that everybody has a level playing field, an opportunity to be able to grow, to prosper, and to do well. And the first step in that is getting a quality education, which I hope we can have a discussion about that a little later, if not now, about the inequalities in education, what we need to do to fix education. As a former school teacher, I understand that education is key to living every one of us. Once you have education and you can read, you have freedom. When you can't read, 61% of 8th graders in the 6th district cannot read on level, or 70% can't do basic math. And then we're graduating 76% of students getting a high school diploma, but yet they don't graduate with the skills that they need to be successful in their chosen field. then I have a problem. We gotta work on fixing education so that there's less issues with racism and division.
Well, it's great to see the throngs of people who showed up today because well, you know, it is in trouble. It's a couple generations now, probably, that civics hasn't been taught. So who's going to teach it? I mean, if one generation doesn't teach to the next, then the next generation is going to lose their liberties, and they're not even going to know what they lost. So, you know, as consumers of even anything, political consumption is important too. We do our research, we do our homework when we buy, you know, appliances, cars, grocery shopping. You know, if we want to learn a skill, become a lawyer, architect, electrician, mechanic, we study, we take the time. People treat politics like it's some amateur once every 4 years thing. No, we need to spend a little more time as citizens. Just 5% of our free time would be a huge benefit to the whole country. And it would bring the changes we need by addressing the fundamental breakdown of what's wrong with our society. I mean, why is it that the 1%ers rule everything and make sure that the rest of us are kept down? That's what, if we showed up, let's say as citizens legislators, lobbyists, I mean, at the rope in Columbia, not just 5 or 10 of us, but what about 50 or 100 of us? Suddenly they'd have to pay attention. That's what it's going to take. Citizens' power has to be exercised. It's like playing a game of chess. If you were taking your queen just to conquer a pawn, that wouldn't be a good strategy, would it? The bigger picture is you're going to protect that. You're going to work for the bigger strategy, and that's what we need to do. We need to look at the big picture because, you know, they want us divided. They want us fighting over the crumbs. That's the difference. If we, the people, unite, we can make a critical mass, and expand opportunities for everyone in the whole country.
You know, I believe my slogan says, justice for all or justice for none. Mr. Buckner made an interesting comment. He said, the more freedom you have, the more wealth you have. The less freedom you have, the less wealth you have. So imagine coming from a people. My great-grandmother, my dear Nana Justine Brown, just died in 2015. She was 101 years old. She was raised by a man named Willie Simmons, who was born in Beaufort, South Carolina in 1838. He was enslaved. My Nana died when I was 31 in 2015. I spent 31 years of my life with a woman who was raised by a man who was enslaved. When 9/11 happens, people say, never forget. Holocaust, people say, never forget. Native Americans, massacres, people say, never forget. Enslavement that happened in America from the 1600s to the 1800s. Then we had Jim Crow from the 1800s to the 1970s. My mother told me, my father told me in the 1970s, South Carolina still had Jim Crow going strong. But we, freedmen, get told, get over it. Stop complaining. No. If a man moves here from Germany and German people are oppressed by the American government, I will be on the front line saying, America, you owe these people the repair that's due to them. America pays reparations to many Native American tribes in the form of budgets to their tribal governments. America paid reparations to the Japanese Americans, some who had died. Not all of them were the ones put in concentration camps. In the case where they died, it went to their children or it went to their surviving spouse. America did it for the people exposed to radiation. They're still getting it today. Their children, grandchildren still get it. America did with the Iranian hostages. America did with the Guamanians. So when you say diverse groups, I think of South Carolina District 6 still being a majority black group and how the majority of the people here are freedmen. It's not a race thing, it's a status thing. I would say the first thing I would do is make sure that America, who says liberty and justice for all, lives up to that. And I say to America, if you did reparations for this group, then give me one good reason why you have not done it for this group, unless you can tell me that it's not based on hate. So I will do reparations for the freedmen who have yet to see a penny for all the horrors they've been through, from slavery, the Jim Crow, the lynch mobs, the sharecropping, to debtors prison, to redlining, to being left out of the New Deal, to being left out of the GI Bill, to being left out of the Social Security Act, the Labor Union Act, things that my parents, who are still alive and well right now, can still tell me stories about.
I've heard so many things. Can you repeat the question?
What specific policy or legislative changes do you believe are most urgently needed for the diverse communities within District 6, and how do you plan to address them?
Okay, I understand now. But I've already talked about it. It has to come back to the income taxes, because it's all about consumer health, which is one of District 6's main problems. They've addressed it, called it the corridor of shame. Get rid of income taxes. Let the people work for themselves. Let them become communities again. Not hate each other. Get along together. Be with each other. And the other thing, so consumer health, we need the Declaration of Peace, and we have to have, we just have to get along. It's about the government being less intrusive into our lives. So I understand your argument about reparations. Part of me thinks that we should get rid of all of that. I mean, we have to reduce the government's input and control over our lives. So, is it owed? Probably absolutely. But we got to stop paying everybody for all of our faults and ask for forgiveness. Just all get along and move on.
I agree with you.
Regarding just to give a quick history lesson regarding my party, the Republican Party. Now, after the Civil War, it was the Republican Party that put forth legislation for reparations for slaves, when they could know who needed it, they could see who was entitled to it, and they knew where it was going, and it would be just and right. That was the Republican Party that did it. It was the Democratic Party that voted against that and kept that from happening. I just wanted to share that. So when you look now, years and years later, and you have so diverse groups of people, mixes of races, it's very difficult now to determine who should be owed these reparations. And so the focus should be, how can we move forward in making sure that there's a level playing field for everyone, so that we all can prosper and do well in this country and not be left behind. And the way to do that is, again, it all starts with two things. Either you have a good paying job, or you start your own business. And what I want to do with your company is make it easier for you to be able to do either one of those and get a quality education. Without that, nothing else is coming in focus. And I would rather spend my time focusing on doing that than fighting for reparations that may or may not come. People need relief and they need help right now. And that's what I'm going to do and be my focus on. I just want to share that.
I'm not ready to talk. We should get into this. We should too. But just to find the audience that there's a big difference in the radical Republicans of that time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I was going to make, sir. Thank you. The fact that this campaign, industrial complex propaganda comes out and acts like, oh, they forgot about the little switch that happened during the civil rights era that said, oh, Republicans are against this, so now the Democrats adopt it. You know, that switch was significant. You're totally irrelevant to 1800s Republican Party. It's totally irrelevant. Strom Thurmond here in this state, and brought all his homies with him. So that problem resides right here, and we need to, look, I'm with you, man, on the reparations thing. Even if it's going to be a battle and we can't get it done, we can get a little something, at least free college or something, We do owe those folks.
Yes, so let me go down the line. First of all, Mr. Simpson, people rely more on the government when the government is pathetic and failing. When people can do for themselves, they really don't want the government. So the government's not paying us anything. They're refunding wealth that they took from us. Okay? In the 1900s, the federal government stole something worth billions of dollars of land from freemen. Mr. Buckner, you are a lawyer. So you know that you have various clients and they all are due justice, correct? But not all cases are the same. So we can't say we want justice for all because you don't treat your clients that way. You don't do the same presentation for this client and this client and that client. You study their case and then you tailor your presentation in the courtroom for their case. So it is not morally honest for us to say that a country as large as America, that we have all these different diverse groups, that every group has the same need, and we're going to provide for those groups the same way, because every group was not treated the same. I don't treat my students that way in the classroom. I want all my students to get a quality education, but this student comes to me, and this student may be pretty well prepared. I give them a certain level of support, but some students come to me with a long history of trauma and wrong that has been done to them, and they need more support. So we can't say treating people all the same is going to always lead to the same outcome when not all people came to us being treated the same. And you said that your party was for reparations, then that means the Republican Party was for reparations in the 1800s, then why are they not for it now in the 2020s? Okay? We can't say the bad Democrats were against it, and the Democratic Party is awful. I'll be the first to admit that. They're worse than the Republican Party when it comes to their treatment of Black Americans, because they get our votes, and they give us both their butt cheeks to kiss.